Design is the heart and soul of vehicle engineering. A beautifully designed car can uplift the human spirit, turning heads and sparking joy. But not every car has been a masterpiece. Some have sent us running, not with excitement, but straight to the nearest bathroom. Brace yourself for a visual journey through the most hideous cars ever made, presented in chronological order. Let's dive into this gallery of automotive missteps. Dubbed the world's first minivan, the stout Scarab was groundbreaking in many ways. It boasted an aluminum unibody and a rear-mounted Ford the 5.8 engine, but none of these innovations could save it from its unfortunate appearance. Its flattened, bug-like face and awkwardly wide body lacked the running boards that were standard at the time, making it look bizarrely unfinished. Naming it after the dung beetle didn't help its appeal either. Only 9 were built, and honestly, that was probably 9 too many. During World War II, Crosley's small cars gained popularity due to fuel rationing. But when peace returned, they introduced the CC, a car that looked like a squash toy rather than a proper vehicle. Its slab-sided design lacked running boards, a feature that became oddly trendy. The Crosley CC's comically small wheels, paired with its boxy, unappealing shape, made it the butt of many jokes. To add insult to injury, its new overhead camshaft engine was just as unreliable as the car's appearance was awkward. Thankfully, post-war prosperity allowed people to leave the Crosley behind. Imagine combining the front of a sports car with the back of a woody wagon. Sounds ridiculous? Well, British automaker Allard thought it was a great idea. The result? The P2 Safari, a vehicle so strange and unsettling that it's hard to believe it ever existed. Powered by a Ford the 5.8, this mishmash of design clashed in every possible way. Production numbers are estimated at around 10 to 13, with only 5 surviving today. The rest? Likely destroyed by angry mobs who couldn't bear to look at it anymore. The original 1955 Thunderbird was a design marvel, sleek, stylish, and unburdened by excessive chrome. But by 1958, things took a nosedive. Ford turned the once iconic two-seater into a bloated, 4-seat monstrosity drenched in gaudy 1950s embellishments. The new Thunderbird became a caricature of its former self, weighed down by its oversized proportions and over-the-top design. Ironically, sales skyrocketed, proving that bad taste sometimes prevails. Thankfully, Ford redeemed itself with the later Thunderbird generations, which reclaimed their elegance and charm. If taking up space was an art form, the 1958 Lincoln Continental would be its masterpiece. Its canted headlights, boxy sides, and bizarre concave fender treatment made it look unnecessarily massive and unapologetically hideous, even by the questionable standards of the 1950s. This car's styling was so bad that even its contemporaries considered it an eyesore. If you want a good laugh, check out the infamous promotional video comparing the Lincoln to the equally garish 58 Cadillac. The narrator's disdain is priceless. To make matters worse, Lincoln managed to make the car uglier in 1959 and 1960. But there's a silver lining. The 1961 Lincoln Continental that replaced it became one of the most beautiful cars ever made, erasing the memory of this debacle. The Subaru 360 was Japan's answer to strict K-car regulations, designed to be small, efficient, and affordable. What it wasn't designed to be was beautiful. Shaped like a deformed sea creature, the 360's bulbous, awkward proportions made it one of the ugliest K-cars ever produced. When Subaru brought the 360 to the US in 1968, they ran commercials proudly describing it as cheap and ugly. Yes, you read that right. Truth in advertising at its finest. While the car did have charm in its quirkiness, it certainly wasn't winning any beauty contests. French automaker Citroën has always been known for pushing design boundaries, but the Ami May 6th have pushed them too far. Featuring a reverse-raked rear window and angled B-pillars, the Ami looked like it was caught in a perpetual windstorm. It did have one innovation. It was the first car to use non-round headlights, paired with a wavy front grille that looked more confused than cohesive. Even the French weren't sold on it. Sales of the aging 2CV outpaced the Ami 6 2-1 in 1962. The Marlin was AMC's attempt at creating a fastback sports car, but instead of sleek and sporty, it ended up being a visual disaster. Unlike the Dodge Charger, which nailed the proportions of a fastback, the Marlin failed spectacularly. No matter where you stood, this car looked wrong. Too long here, too short there, and lumpy everywhere. AMC managed to sell a few, but the Marlin is best remembered as a cautionary tale about how not to design a car. Italy, the land of breathtaking design and iconic automotive legends, somehow gave us the Lombardy Grand Prix. This sad little coupe had the proportions of a shoebox, the power of a Fiat lawnmower engine, and the charisma of a brick. Nicknamed the Booby Prix for its disastrous styling, it was occasionally sold in a slightly more powerful Abarth version. But let's be honest, no amount of horsepower could fix its looks. If we were to crown the ugliest car of all time, the Marcos Mantis M70 would be a strong contender. This grotesque British sports car looked like it was designed in the dark, with mismatched proportions, lumpy lines, and baffling details that made no sense. Amazingly, Marcos sold 32 of these monstrosities, likely to buyers who were too embarrassed to admit they'd signed the contract. AMC claimed the Matador was inspired by sleek European sport coupes, but what they delivered was an oversized, awkwardly bulbous mess. The Matador's exaggerated curves and bloated design screamed excess in the worst possible way. Despite its terrible looks, some critics praised its design at the time, proving once and for all that beauty really is in the eye of the beholder, or maybe they just had really bad eyesight. The Triumph TR7 was supposed to be a sleek British sports car, but instead, it looked like something out of a dystopian nightmare. Designed with thick roof pillars and tiny windows, it felt claustrophobic and heavy, far from the graceful lines of its competitors. British Leyland's poor build quality didn't help matters. Most TR7s rusted away before they could further offend anyone's eyes. In the end, the car became a symbol of British automotive decline in the 1970s. The Aston Martin Lagonda is proof that even luxury brands can have an off day, or decade. Looking like a flattened version of a Chevrolet Caprice, the Lagonda was boxy, awkward, and utterly uninspiring. The futuristic interior earned some praise, but that was cold comfort to anyone forced to look at its disastrous exterior. This was not Aston Martin's finest hour, but thankfully, they've since redeemed themselves. The Rolls-Royce Camargue spent 8 years in development, but apparently, they forgot to spend any time on its exterior design. The result? A clunky, mismatched body that replaced Rolls-Royce's classic elegance with something resembling a poorly modified Ford Escort. Designed by Pininfarina, the Camargue was so out of character for Rolls-Royce that it became infamous for all the wrong reason. Somehow, it stayed in production for 11 years, long enough to cement its reputation as a low point in Rolls' history. The Cimarron was Cadillac's ill-fated attempt to turn a Chevy Cavalier into a luxury car. The transformation consisted of bigger taillights, slightly upgraded wheels, and a front fascia that looked like it was borrowed from other Chevy models. The result? A car that united traditional Cadillac buyers and younger import enthusiasts in their mutual hatred. Its underwhelming styling, lack of luxury, and inflated price tag ensured that the Cimarron remains one of the most reviled cars ever to wear the Cadillac badge. Alfa Romeo has a reputation for creating some of the most beautiful cars in history, but the Sprint Zagato SZ is the exception that proves the rule. Its blocky design, odd proportions, and strange beltline angle made it look like it was designed for Lego enthusiasts, not car buyers. Even the wheels had a toy-like quality. Rumor has it that the prototype accidentally went through a compactor, and instead of fixing it, they just went with it. When General Motors decided to make minivans futuristic, they accidentally made them ridiculous. The Lumina APV and its clones looked like oversized dustbuster vacuum cleaners, with an anteater-style nose and a windshield that stretched so far forward it felt like you were driving from the back seat. While the vans had some practicality, the styling was so bizarre that it alienated buyers. The dashboard was another ergonomic disaster. If you dropped anything on it, Good luck retrieving it without removing the windshield. The final version of the Skylark is often overlooked on ugliest car lists, but it absolutely deserves its place. Its most offensive features included a pointy front bumper that looked like a beak, awkward wedge-shaped parking lights, a squished wheelbase, and thick, two-tone body cladding. Buick seemed to think that a 50s fender skirt look would work in the 90s. Spoiler alert, it didn't. The Skylark's dismal sales ensured it quickly disappeared from American roads, and for that, we should be grateful. The Aurora was a last-ditch effort to save Oldsmobile with futuristic technology and a sleek new design. While the technology impressed, the styling didn't. Borrowing heavily from the bizarrely named 1989 Oldsmobile tube car concept, the Aurora looked like it had been eroded by wind over a millennium. The grille-free nose and squinty headlights gave it a ghostly, mouthless appearance. Despite positive reviews for its performance, the public wasn't on board, and the Aurora marked the beginning of the end for Oldsmobile. South Korea's Ssangyong Corando looked like a Jeep Wrangler that had melted in the sun. The front end was a warped, cartoonish take on the Wrangler's iconic grille, while the rear resembled a geo-tracker with a severe case of identity crisis. Though it was capable and cheap, owners had to face one undeniable truth: they'd have to look at it every day. That's a lot to ask, even for an affordable off-roader. The Fiat Multipla is the holy grail of ugly cars, winning multiple awards for its hideousness. Its design looked like someone sliced two cars in half and mismatched their tops and bottoms. The hood appeared sat upon, the greenhouse was absurdly fishbowl-like, and the overall effect was pure chaos. Inside, the horror continued. Fiat crammed all the controls and gauges into the center console, which resembled a hacked-up toddler activity board. Even the French, known for their quirky designs, found it too much to handle. Renault tried to appeal to empty nesters by creating the Avantime, a two-door one-box vehicle that was more art piece than car. While it featured some genuinely interesting innovations, like double-hinged doors and a glass roof, its reverse-slanted rear window and overall oddball proportions made it a sales disaster. Renault only managed to sell 8,000 Avantimes before they gave up, but at least they had the grace to admit that it was something of a disaster. Points for honesty, but not for style. The Infiniti QX56 is a masterclass in turning a decent-looking Nissan Armada into a luxury SUV with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. The combination of low-slung headlights, an enormous grille, and an awkward roofline gave the QX56 a brutish, lumbering appearance. In a time when SUVs were symbols of excess, this Neanderthal-inspired monstrosity gave people one more reason to resent the wealthy. Later redesigns somehow managed to look even worse before Infiniti finally figured things out. Jeep thought it could tap into the growing crossover market by introducing the Compass, but the 2007 model looked more like a caricature than a real car. Dubbed the Hello Kitty face by critics, its neutered, bubbly styling betrayed Jeep's rugged brand image. Underneath, it was based on the Dodge Caliber, which means it drove just as badly as it looked. Fortunately, Jeep eventually gave the Compass a much-needed makeover, but the original remains a cautionary tale. Mitsuoka, a niche Japanese automaker, thought it would be a great idea to combine modern Japanese cars with classic 1950s British styling cues. Spoiler, it wasn't. The Mitsuoka Gallew is a prime example of this misguided philosophy. Built on the chassis of an Infiniti Q70, the Gallew somehow made a beautiful car look like a garish, exaggerated Rolls-Royce knockoff. If it were a horse, we'd send it straight to the glue factory, rimshot. The Aston Martin Signet remains one of the most baffling automotive decisions ever made. Based on the Scion IQ, the Signet was Aston Martin's attempt to meet emission standards by slapping their badge onto a microcar. The end result looked like a Scion trying to cosplay as James Bond. While it was funny looking to begin with, Aston's attempt to add their design language made it even more absurd. One V8-powered prototype proved the brand had a sense of humor, but the Signet was otherwise a total miss. 28. 2012 Mini Cooper Coupe. The Mini Cooper Coupe is what happens when you stretch a quirky idea too far. This two-seater had a roofline designed to resemble a backwards baseball cap, which made it look less sporty and more like an overgrown toy. While it drove well, as most Minis do, the sloped roof ate up headroom and made rear visibility nearly impossible. It was impractical, irritating, and short-lived. Mini discontinued it by 2015, leaving few to mourn its demise. Jeep's first Fiat-based SUV had plenty of skeptics, but no one was prepared for the visual assault that was the 2014 Cherokee. Its bizarre front fascia, with squinty headlights and an awkward grille, looked more like an alien insect than a rugged SUV. Critics quickly drew comparisons to the infamous Pontiac Aztek, and the Cherokee's odd styling overshadowed its solid off-road capabilities. It wasn't until 2019 that Jeep finally gave the Cherokee a facelift, putting this awkward era in its rearview mirror. When Rolls-Royce announced its first SUV, expectations were high, until the Cullinan was unveiled. Critics panned its blocky, awkward design, with Top Gear's Chris Harris comparing it to a Chinese knockoff of a Rolls-Royce. The Cullinan's oversized grille, uninspired proportions, and generic SUV silhouette fell completely out of place for a brand known for elegance. Inside, it's everything you'd expect from Rolls-Royce luxury, but that's little consolation to anyone forced to look at its exterior. From luxury brand missteps to misguided niche experiments, these cars are proof that even the most innovative ideas can be ruined by bad design. While some found redemption in later iterations, others remain infamous for their styling sins. Now it's your turn to decide, which of these deserves the dubious honor of being the ugliest car ever? Or is there another contender you'd like to nominate for the list? Let's hear it.